Hey everyone. I was not planning to do a live today. I was just going to throw the video up. Oh, see, I didn't even have my microphone in front of me. Like, you can't even hear me. Can you hear me now? A hot mess. I was in the middle of coloring my hair. Look, no color. It's a surprise, though. Can't tell you what it is. But then Judge Stevens is sitting there talking about this wreck as I'm relaxing, coloring my hair, watching Mike, having a little, what do they call that? Self-care or whatever you're supposed to do day. And Judge Stevens starts talking about the wreck. So, how am I supposed to not do it live? So this is going to be a little awkward because I had self-care. Thank you. Self-care. So I had this planned for a premiere. So there's, overlays and talking on the video itself. So I'm sorry that it's a little awkward, but I feel it'll be better with a little interaction anyways, because this is a horrific case. This is, if you're queasy, don't like talking about things, they don't show anything graphic, but they do describe the wreck. And there's some horrible things. So don't watch if not, like what this guy does really, it's interesting. Just watch, form your own opinions. The question of the day is, should the punishment fit the crime or the criminal? Does somebody having remorse and trying to make amends change how much they should be punished? This is a horrific wreck, automobile accident, and this gentleman is being sentenced for causing 3 deaths.
And your case with Chance Craddock.
But first, we will start with breaking news tonight. A deadly crash on Highway 82 in Port Arthur.
Yeah, we're zooming in, showing you this happened around 8 tonight on the highway near the Valero refinery. That road still shut down in both directions as we come on the air here at 10 o'clock tonight. This is new video just in from the scene. We understand one vehicle flipped and ended up right next to the fence at the plant.
Police haven't released many details, but they did confirm 3 people have died. Again, the road remains closed. We will have the latest on air and online as we know more.
The fabulous Mighty Spork has graced us with her presence.
3 cases, 21-37536, 37537, 37538. The state of Texas versus Chance Glenn Craddock. Mr. Craddock is present. His attorney, Mr. Macon. In each of these cases, the defendant is charged with the 2nd-degree felonies of intoxication manslaughter. As I understand this was one wreck, collision, and 3 lives were lost.
3 lives. Yes.
Pre-sentence report has been prepared as the defendant in August pleaded guilty in each of these cases. And the court has reviewed this and other accompanying documents. Are there any additional documents that the parties wish to add before I allow each party to present any additional information? Any paperwork?
We have nothing additional, Your Honor.
Oh,
We furnished the court with everything.
okay. Then the defendant has been charged with 2nd-degree felonies in each of these cases. So he is facing no less than 2 nor more than 20 years confinement in prison and a fine up to $10,000 in each case.
Okay, I'm not going to stop at a whole bunch, but I just heard him say 2nd-degree felony. I would think that killing 3 people would be 3rd, which is the highest. Does anybody know if it's different in Texas?
The plea agreement is that
I could look it up.
the sentences shall run concurrently. It says open plea, which is actually it's to run the agreement is that all the sentences shall run concurrently, but he is subject to the full term of confinement and fine for each case. But the sentences shall run concurrently. Is that the understanding everybody has?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because it's manslaughter and not murder.
Pre-sentence report has been
Good call.
prepared. Have the parties had an opportunity to review it? And are there any corrections or changes? First of all,
Hey,
from
you didn't miss
defense?
anything.
Your Honor, the only thing I would point out is that only Bannon Nichols Jr. was decapitated in the wreck, not all the victims decapitated. I mean,
Okay.
that's
Any-
correct. That's no
That's-
objection. That's correct.
But they were,
Horribly killed.
yeah, it's tragic. Anything else?
Nothing at this time.
What about state? Anything else to add?
No, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Major. Where to begin?
Your Honor, this,
Well, there's no, this is going to be emotional for everybody involved, everybody.
it is,
But let's
you know, what.
do our
makes-
best
what-
and move forward because we're trying to fix a tragedy here.
True. And what makes this case different from all the other cases we've seen is Mr. Craddock's actions after. No, he shouldn't have taken his medication and driven. No, he shouldn't have taken his medication and drank and drove. And he's at fault and he's accepted that. He blew a 1.10.
Which is intoxication.
Yes, you know, he was intoxicated. From the moment he was released on bond, he sought to work with your permission. He's not driven. And the money he's earned, he's able to put aside. I think it's now a savings account of some $22,000 that he wants to somehow give it to the surviving young man. And under the new law that went into effect in September 23rd, I think some provisions can be made not only for that lump sum, but continuing child support for Mr. Craddock after whatever the judge does. You know, in addition to that, he has set up a scholarship at Lamar University in the names of the deceased and funded it with his own money. And we continue to do that. And if that can be part of the order, that's fine with us, but he will continue to do that. You know, that in no way, you know, is any salve to the surviving families. They lost loved ones. And, you know, they'll mourn them for years. And Mr. Craddock has, on my advice, not contacted any of them to do anything to express his regret and sorrow. That's all I have.
Stay.
So concurrent is going to run at the same time. Consecutive is going to be one after the other. So if you think of the word current, which is all together, or right now. The prosecutor is about to describe the accident in pretty gruesome detail. So if you don't want to hear that, then I would suggest turning it off now or skipping ahead to about 20 minutes in. In addition, I forgot some photographs. None of them show anything bad.
Judge, these three who died and the young child that was in the car, and one of them that died was 13 at the time. I really don't know how to describe this because they were just going shopping. That's all they were doing that day. They were minding their own business, driving down a public highway, not bothering anybody. And this man not only hit them, but went over the top of their vehicle, taking Mr. Nichols' head off. I got to tell you that I can't imagine what the family's going through, and I apologize to the family for describing this, but I got to tell it what it is because I think you need to know. I can't imagine what the family's going through. I can't imagine what the first responders were going through when they saw it, because all I've seen is all the photos, Judge. And to see Mr. Nichols' head laying on top of the 14-year-old who's crumpled in the back seat of that car is an image that I'll never be able to get out of my head. And it's something that I'll carry with me. And I don't even come close to what the family has to deal with. Not only was he driving on the wrong side of the roadway, but was a witness saw him an hour before driving down the wrong side of the road, stopped, get out of his vehicle, and then got back in his vehicle and drove again. This time on the other side of the highway, driving down the wrong side of the road. He mentioned to the officer that he knew he had double vision while he was driving, so he knew he shouldn't have been safely behind the wheel. He was reckless. He was just about doing what he wanted to do, and his intoxication got the better of him. I don't doubt that all these letters that he's given are nice letters, and they say wonderful things about him. But Judge, that doesn't take away the fact that there's a 13-year-old that's not going to grow up and have a chance to do wonderful things in her life or for other people. There's two 30-year-olds. One was 30, I think 35. One was 32. Mr. Nichols was 32. And Ms. McDaniel was 35 at the time. Young people that still had a lot of life ahead of them, and would have been able to see this young 13-year-old Ariana in the back seat, been able to see her grow up, go to high school, prom, get married, have a life of her own. But it was cut short because this man's selfish decision to drink and take medication and get behind the wheel.
There were 4 people.
There was a 3-year-old that was not injured in the car.
What a miracle.
Yes, it was a miracle. And that's only by grace of God was the 3-year-old not killed. You don't do something like that and walk back out of a courtroom with everybody else. You just don't. There's just no way that he can ever repay what he took that day. There's not.
Yeah, let's pause for a second and regroup. So I had a serious question as I was watching this. So this guy had completely clean record, no DUIs, no nothing. This one thing happens and it ends in tragedy. But how do you compare that? Like, what's your personal opinions on that versus we've seen people who have had 8 or more DUIs going into court who have never had an accident, but they keep, getting slaps, not slaps on the wrist, but, they're still driving, they're still doing it. So how should the punishments go between those two? What do you think? Should we be tougher on those people with those 8 DUIs, or it's just shit happens when it happens? And he was driving a truck. This happened in Port Arthur, Texas. He took Zoloft and an unknown antidepressant, drank alcohol. They just said his blood alcohol level was 0.1, but then somewhere else in there, they said 0.18. The judge says he was twice the legal limit. So he did drink quite a bit.
But there is some justice in this world that we can actually make him pay for what he took that day. I gave him a gift by running these concurrent when the statute allows for them to run consecutive, even if they're in the same act. And so I'm asking the court to give him the 20 years. I think he earned it by what he did that day. And I think that would be just and fair under the circumstances and the situation.
New developments tonight on the driver charged with intoxication manslaughter in that crash that killed 3 and injured a child. According to new documents obtained by 12 News, Chance Craddock admitted to police that he had double vision after taking several medications. Police say when they first spoke with Craddock at the scene, his speech was slurred and his breath smelled like alcohol. A test at the scene determined he'd been driving at twice the legal limit.
No, it was a
Any response?
normal road truck.
Your Honor, I think Mr. Craddock has a very short statement in that period.
Go ahead, sir.
Your Honor, I'd just like to start by saying my apologies to the family. I know they don't mean anything, and I can't change anything that I've done. I own up to my mistakes. I wish it was me instead of them. I know I can't bring anyone back, but I would like to be able to support them any way I can possibly, for however long it takes.
That's it. Judge is like, really? That's all? Like, there was no. You can't say, yeah, I wish it was me. Like, because that's what I'm supposed to say in this situation. Like, if you really mean that, put some oomph behind it, because that was just so dry and empty. Like, WTF? This is your life you're pleading for. Like, act like you care. I understand it was probably tragic for him too, and he's going through a lot, but damn, man. Like, yeah, wish it was me, but you know, there's not much I can say. Frustrates me.
What else? Anything else?
Woohoo! Ruth got alive.
Wow. Couple of things. In the pre-sentence report, it was requested that the court look at the photos. Do you have that?
I do, Your Honor, not printed out. I do have them on this. So.
No. Oh,
So a couple of you said go to prison for the rest of his life. So he has taken a plea agreement for 20 years for each count, but it's going to run concurrently. So the most he's going to go to prison for, he's going to get sentenced to 20 years. And then there's whatever reductions happen to that sentence. But for this, like, the prosecutor testified how traumatizing the pictures were just to him alone. There's a plea agreement. The judge isn't deciding the sentence. So why are you going to make the judge look at those photos and experience that same level of trauma? I don't understand that. I can't. Somebody give me a reason why that's happening, because I can't find one.
Would like for me to put them on my computer so you can look at them.
Yeah, like everything says don't drive
let me,
nowadays.
ask you just a couple of things here. And Mr. Craddock, it's hard to say anything about an accident where it's deemed you're at fault and
Thank you. It's
3
covering
people
my
are killed.
hair.
And I've presided over so many of these types of situations, and people take it for granted that those are not much more than 4,000-pound missiles, which do terrible damage to human tissue when they collide.
He likes that
When
term.
the officers arrived and spoke to you, your first statement was that you weren't at fault for the wreck, and you believed that the Cadillac swerved into your lane, and you did what you could to minimize the damage. You also denied drinking any alcohol, although your blood alcohol showed that you were intoxicated.
That's all I can think.
You stated you did not consume any alcohol prior to driving. You did drink alcohol the previous night. which would have been
Absolutely.
over a day before.
At least half, I think. Texas probably more.
Can you explain why those came out of your mouth during that period of time when you
Messed up.
had everything to lose by not telling the truth? Why would you falsify those statements at that time?
Your Honor, honestly,
Yeah, honestly.
I was scared. I've never been in trouble before.
So the first
And at
thing
the
you came
time-
out was lying?
No, sir, at the time, I wasn't really sure. I was shook up from the wreck,
Okay.
and now I know that everything was my fault. I own up to that, but at the time, no, sir, I was not really sure. I don't remember most of that part. To be honest with you.
During the pre-sentence,
So I kind of have a problem with people being held accountable for what they say immediately following an incident where they're intoxicated or something like that. You know, why did you say that? Well, because I was messed up and I wasn't in my right mind. Not that this guy deserves even an inch, but, you know, the answer is obvious, and to hold that against him doesn't seem right. Somebody asked how long he'll do on a sentence, and this is from a defense attorney in Texas that says that for first, second, and third degree felonies, a prisoner is parole eligible when calendar time plus good conduct time equals 1/4 of the sentence. Good conduct time is earned by participating in work and self-improvement programs. Good conduct time can be subtracted for disciplinary violations. That's shocking. 1/4. I would think they would do a lot more. I know in Michigan, usually it's 1/2, I think somebody said recently.
in its interview to the probation office, you claimed that you
Yeah.
had never drank to intoxication. Is that true?
Yes, sir, that's great.
But you reported drinking to intoxication for approximately 4 years. It states at the time of the substance abuse assessment listed below. Here in this. The defendant reported a 7-year history of alcohol use in the substance abuse assessment. 4 of those years to intoxication. It states that the person who did the substance abuse assessment believed that you are in denial of addiction and you do not see your consumption of alcohol as being a problem. Why would she say that?
Okay, so House Bill 393, this is from like 2 weeks ago, also known as Bentley's Law, requires convicted drunk drivers to pay up to 18 years of child support if they kill a parent. The law was brought on with the help of Texas mom Mindy Red, who lost her own daughter due to a drunk driver. That's pretty good. I like that.
When you have everything to lose by not being accurate and truthful, why would you hedge at this time?
That's how I read it.
Your Honor, at the time, I must have misunderstood the question.
You misunderstood the question.
I'm not really sure. At the time of my drinking, no, sir, I don't think that I had a problem. I didn't see that I had a problem. Now, after what I've created, what I've done, because of my drinking, I see that now.
It
I
says
see
at the
that I
time
have
of
a
the substance abuse assessment, you reported drinking to intoxication, to the state of intoxication for approximately 4 years. That's it right here. Why would you say that if it wasn't true? I mean, that's not true, or is that wrong? I mean, that's important here.
What was the question?
During the pre-sentence interview with the probation officer, you said that you had never drank to intoxication. But during the substance abuse assessment in front of Ms. Posey, you stated that you have a 7-year history of alcohol use, with 4 of those years drinking to intoxication.
Yes,
which
sir.
which was the last reported use approximately May of 2021, which would have been on or about the date of this.
Yes, sir. I do believe the last 4 years of my drinking was, I had a problem. with
Okay,
this.
all
I
right,
believe
that's
that.
your statement? That you drank to intoxication for
I
for
believe
about
that
4
I had a
years?
problem. Yes, sir.
Let me see.
Just we tap it. It's set up to.
How many photos?
I didn't know
are
I
there?
had a problem 2
Have it
weeks
there.
There's a
ago,
lot
but
I'm sorry.
on the,
you know,
right there. on the-
now
on
I
the pad.
understand.
Just tap on the middle pad.
What the court is saying is obviously a catastrophic automobile collision between 2 automobiles. One is on its side and it's up against another vehicle, and the Cadillac is where the deceased,
That's correct, John.
the top of the vehicle has been torn off. That's in Port Arthur.
Yes, sir.
There's little chance of survival. Apparently, the vehicles stopped when they made contact with each other and didn't move very far, which if you're going to even the speed limit there, it's a catastrophic event. There truly is no way to describe decapitation of a human being.
No, sir.
It doesn't have words. At the end of the day, what were your injuries, sir? From this,
I'm not interested, sir.
what were your injuries from this collision?
My injuries, I believe I had back injuries. Knee injuries and back injuries. Yes, sir.
I believe. He says, I believe I had. How do you not know what injuries you had? If you were in a wreck and you got hurt, do you not know how you got hurt? Like, I was in a wreck when I was 18 and I still have a screwed up disc in my neck. And I can tell you exactly what happened and how I was hurt. But I did look this up. Oh, hold on. I'm covering it. There is not a good layout for when you put writing on the screen. So I looked this up, and there is a lot of like argument on whether this actually exists or not. But drunk drivers statistically do suffer fewer injuries in the accidents. And some of the studies say it's because the ragdoll theory, because think of, a sloppy drunk is like falling all over the place and just kind of blah. So whenever they are going to the impact, they don't react, they don't tense up and tighten. I know my mother was in a car accident and she braced and put her foot down on the floor and ended up shattering her ankle. And it was just because, she braced for impact. Had she not braced, that probably wouldn't have happened. So they're saying that's what it is. But then other studies are saying, no, that's not why. But they don't have a reason why. So I don't really know. But drunk drivers, I mean, think of how often we hear it in the news. The drunk driver walks away with a scratch and the other person is killed. It's horrible. Whoop.
I have received some letters on your behalf written by people who know you. And they all seem to state similarly that you are a good person who is very remorseful for this event. And here, at least,
Okay, that was another question I had. If your family member was this guy, say that's your brother or your son or your cousin, and think of your relationship with that person, and that person made a mistake and did this, would you write a letter for him? I mean, think of how we're feeling watching this, these emotions, and feeling so, hurt by what happened to these victims. Would you write a letter and try and lessen the sentence for the person that caused it when they're your person? That would be freaking hard.
on yours, you are taking complete responsibility. You state, I take complete blame and responsibility for my actions. And now you have a family of your own,
Yes, sir.
a child.
Yes, sir.
Well,
From what I could find, this guy doesn't have priors. Like, he may drink some, but we know lots of people who drink frequently who aren't bad people. Alcohol has become a way of life for a lot of us since COVID. Well, not me, because I'm not allowed to drink, but I wish I could. That would be a hard decision.
well, is there anything else you wish to add before the court renders its decision?
Your Honor, I'm not beneficial to me. That's I'm not worried about what's beneficial for me. I want to be able to help the family. I want to be able to do for them and provide and to anything that could help is what I'm worried about. And I know time in prison, I wouldn't be able to. I'm not capable of helping. And the main thing I'm worried about is being able to help and men and show them that I'm not a bad person. I did mess up, and I own up to that. I messed up that day. Something that I can never bring back or fix. I would love to trade places with the family. It would be perfect for me to be in their shoes instead of them. I want to be able to help them.
Anything
A little
else
more emotion
from
there.
anybody? All right. If not, I'm going to find as follows, sir, that
Okay, before he puts his decision, now you're in the victim's shoes. Would you rather see that person suffer in jail, or would you rather get $1,000 a month or whatever monetary amount? That's not ridiculous. That's a hard one.
in each of these cases, you have pleaded guilty voluntarily. You are mentally competent to do so. You understand and appreciate the consequences of pleading true. There was sufficient evidence supporting your pleas of guilty in each of these cases to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Unfortunately, you can't go back in time. Unfortunately, you cannot bring lives back. And unfortunately, the way the law is based is that when a life is lost because of acts, wrongful acts done, there's really little quid pro quo. There is no equality in administration of a sentence. What ends up happening is that another person becomes punished. And in this type of offense, it really doesn't take an intent to harm anybody, to be guilty of the crime and be punished. And it all goes back to, I'm afraid, something that we take too lightly because we don't even have driver's education as a major rule anymore. Like when I grew up, I had to
So
take driver's
stupid.
ed. But it was, you learn methods of safety that are with you forever. Now it's just a video game. It's like a video game.
I think he's trying to say people learn to drive from Grand Theft Auto and not from, driver's ed in school.
It's been,
My kid's school actually got a driver's ed program approved and had everything, the car and all that. They couldn't find a teacher that would teach it. It's ridiculous.
over 25 years since a day has passed in this state where there hasn't been a fatality on the highway.
That's a good point.
That long, and probably will never be a day. And unfortunately, people take operating a 4,000-pound missile for granted because it takes sobriety. And when you are intoxicated, it becomes kind of a selfish thing because you're high, you're enjoying life, I guess. Meanwhile, everybody you pass is in harm's way, and the way your responses were all wrong at the time. You apparently were incoherent. It wasn't my fault. I'm not drinking. They must have swerved in front of me. All of those were wrong statements.
Okay, last time. I just had an idea. What if we put on a shirt, "Don't drink while you're operating a 4,000-pound missile," or something funny like that? And then I can try and get them made cheap, and we can donate the proceeds of the shirt to the little boy that survived. Give me an idea for a shirt that's cool.
Because you put yourself in a position to where other people were not as important, which is the price that they pay and the price you have to pay. I don't like this because these are situations where you don't have to intent to hurt anybody, but it's more of I thought of myself first and others were second. And you're supposed to be third. Others, God, you third. And as a judge, the one thing I wish I could do is somehow have the ability to bring those poor people back. The only thing we can say that has any comfort for the victim's family is that what I see is they were killed instantaneously. There seems to be from what I have become trained with in 43 years of being a lawyer, there was an instant and that was it. And they were with God. I hereby find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in each of these cases. I am following this agreement. You were hereby sentenced to confinement in the institutional division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice to serve a term of 20 years, which shall run concurrently. It is a terrible price. There is no winning in any of this. Those people want their family back. Your family has lost you for a 20-year sentence. There is no way to fix this except to send a message that actions like this have strong consequences for those who are blameworthy. We've seen what juries do in this court, and they assess the maximum. And everybody's seen because they make the front page. This, in this court, the jury trials we've had, the maximum has been assessed in each case. I know what juries do. And here, we've never had a case in my experience as a judge where 3 lives were lost, which each has its value that you cannot quantify. And the loss of everyone involved to their being able to share, hug, and enjoy each other's life until a natural life ends, which was taken short by actions which are really different from what you seem to be overall, but on this occasion were quite selfish because it was just about getting high and enjoying drinking, jumping into a 4,000-pound missile, which I just wish somebody would have gotten to you, grabbed you and said, you're about to
Yes, sir.
ruin your life as well as others.
Wouldn't that be nice?
This court feels under these circumstances that this court assessment is as close as what is fair and just under these circumstances as can be, since I don't have the ability to bring lives back. And I don't have the ability, minute before this happened, to whisper in your ear, pull over. You're making a big mistake.
It's sad, but it's reality.
That is the sentence of this court, and you are hereby taken into custody.
Judge, we do have an allocution by one of the family members.
Okay,
I mean, this is what happens for real
stand by.
on a daily basis.
All right, the court will allow, which is provided under the law, for a relative or close associate to the victim to make a statement as to the effect that the crime had on the family
It's so
and
weird.
the victims in this case. And who are you, ma'am, please?
I'm Alicia McDaniel, the mother.
Because isn't the point of the victim impact statement to let the court know the impact so they can take that into account in their sentencing? I don't really understand the after. It's a little hard to hear at first, but then the audio gets better, but grab your tissues.
Grandmother of the two deceased.
Go ahead.
It's on my favorite chair. It's my favorite.
He's old school.
This is her 3 surviving boys. This is say the women's in the car. Her name is.
This is the little girl.
The mother of Ambria McDaniel and grandmother of Ariana Washington. My daughter, Ambria, was a very loving woman, age 36 at the time of her death. She was loved by everyone. She was an office manager at Best Buy's import cars in Port Arthur. The top saleswoman for the last 2 years of her employment. She was very independent, outgoing, human being, and had the best attitude and smiled right up her room. She loved her children unconditionally. Amber always had her kids with her everywhere she went. You would see them together. They were a team. She took total responsibility of her kids. She was active in their schooling. The boys played t-ball, they played football, She was the Mother of the Year, received awards in several areas at Toccoa Academy. She was a force to be driven. Anything she put her mind to do, she would full speed ahead. If it came to her mind, she put it into action. As a matter of fact, 10 days before this incident, she had just purchased her first home. I was so proud of her, that young and ambitious with 4 kids. The relationship my daughter and I had was unbreakable until that dreadful day that you destroyed not only her dreams, but mine as well. It was so much more that she would have accomplished because this was the beginning of her future. I lived this every day with her 3 kids for the past 27 months. I had to go through this. It's torture. Today, I'm still nervous about it. I couldn't even drive, and I wasn't even in the car with them. It took me almost a year to actually get behind the wheel and drive myself, and I wasn't even in the car. Ariana Washington, my granddaughter, she was a student at Toccoa. She was very active in robotic program, the stem cells, NASA Center in Houston. She completed in several competitions and came back with several awards. She was very active, high achiever in her classes. She was involved in dancing, volleyball, and drill team. She played t-ball, loved dancing and swimming. She was into fashion, had a big open heart, always was smiling. Riri, as we would call it, the family, and her mother were inseparable. God gave 2 of the most deserving people to place into heaven. Our Riri, Ariana Washington, and my daughter, the Ambria McDavid. The things what I feel and what I know I miss the most are will. It's a lot of first things that my granddaughter won't get to do. Prom, graduation, college grads, being a bride, being a mom. I love being a grandmother. You know, I'm gonna miss those things with her. I can only imagine how they felt when they see you, Mr. Craddock, coming head on into the lane, going 100 miles per hour. Let's not forget about the 4-year-old that was in a car, who also seen the accident. He tells me, he have told me bits and pieces of what he have seen, and he's 6 now, at 4. He tells me about the big truck. I live with it every day. I do, every day.
She's kind of hard to understand. I don't know if y'all realize that, but the one that survived is a toddler, and he remembers the accident. He was conscious through the accident and talks about the big truck and how mommy screamed and went to sleep, and that just broke me. I hope that plays in his head forever.
He heard the big truck coming fast, and his mommy screaming. Then he said she went to sleep. Traumatizing him. He have dreams. I deal with this. He have dreams all the time. We all have went to therapy. This child is still in therapy. All 3 of our boys are still in therapy. Even when we think of the happy times, they bring some pain, because we will never be able to share those moments with my Amber, with this little Amber, and I call her Am, and my baby Riri. Again, the only thing that I, the mother and grandmother of the 2 deceased people, have this morning, I have faith in God. I'm broken. My heart is in a million pieces. So, Mr. Craddock, they did not get another chance to fulfill their future. And I don't feel like you should walk away either. I forgive you, and I pray that court gives you life and strength to carry on like you have been doing me.
So for those asking about the sentence, it was a plea agreement. And the sentence for, he pled to intoxication manslaughter, which in Texas carries a sentence of 2 to 20 years and a fine of up to $10,000. It's typically a second degree felony. So that $22,000 he talked about saving up, like he would have had to pay 30. And Texas generally convicts to the maximum, juries do, is what Judge Stevens said earlier. So he was facing 60 years and $30,000, and what he pled to was a single count instead of the 3 counts. So that's a good deal for him.
I'm Lionel McDaniel. I'm the older brother of Larry McDaniel, which who is my baby sister, and the eldest uncle of Ariana Washington, my niece, whom both I was close to, and they was very dear to me. I'd like to express to the court the devastating impact that has caused my family immeasurable heartbreak, hurt, and loss due to the fact of someone as irresponsible, reckless, and inconsiderable as the guy that stands here today in court. First, let me begin by saying that the reprehensible atrocity that this man has caused by even having the audacity to consider to exhaust the court and my family time by expanding his guilty plea thus far shows how much you are considerable as a human being. I, as well as many others, including you yourself, know you were guilty the day you decided to get behind the wheel of your vehicle intoxicated on May 20, 2021. My little sister was a very beautiful woman with many aspirations and goals. She was an unconditionally loving mother of 4 adorable kids. She didn't miss a beat. But what is missing are 2 of the most impeccable individuals that I truly miss every day of my existence due to the erratic conscious decisions you made has caused a cataclysmic chain of events to unfold without any preparation.
Yes.
Didn't watch my mother afflictions of having to bury her daughter, my sister, and her granddaughter, my niece, which is not the universal order on how it was supposed to happen. In the natural order, parents perish before their offspring. But in this tragedy, Chance, you have reconstructed that very fabric of the defining meaning monstrously. I have deliberated on what to say at this very opportune time to convey absolutely what needs to be professed. Words cannot express the turmoil you have created. Only by strength in God may we stand here steadfast, prolific, profound, and proactive into justice and justified. We didn't ask for this. You did. As your days transpire, may you deemly realize what your actions have caused. And so ironically, with a name like Chance, you didn't give my niece, my baby sister, or her best friend one. So now their retribution is now in God's hands. And an acknowledgement, may you remember their names: Amber McDaniel, Ariana Washington, and Danny Nichols. That's all I have.
Anything else?
Judge, I did want to ask the court, I did not ask the court about whether or not you did not address the affirmative finding of a deadly weapon, whether you were making that finding.
Well, the indictments.
Especially considering the
The
emotion
judgment
going
will
on.
reflect what is in each of these indictments, and that
Be a
the
bumbling idiot. Hopefully I'll never find it.
Motor vehicle in the manner of its use and intended use was capable of causing serious bodily injury and death. Thus, that's what the defendant pleaded to, and thus the judgment shall reflect an affirmative finding that a deadly weapon, namely a motor vehicle, was used in the commission of each of these three offenses.
Thank you, Judge.
Anything else from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
We're in recess on this case. Ryan?
So, and that's that. That was rough. I told you guys it was rough. That's why I wasn't going to do it live. Plus, I was doing my hair. You guys caught me in the middle of like craziness. Now I got to wait till tomorrow. Can only do so many things in one day. But somebody asked me before, why do I show all these horrible things? And like, it breaks my heart watching this stuff, and it's sad and it brings you down. But at the same time, it makes you realize, like, this is life. This really happens. It makes you sympathetic and empathize with people who experience tragedy in their life. And hopefully somebody who is sitting around having a beer and is going to get behind the wheel sees something like this, and that makes them go, oh shit, yeah, let me call an Uber instead. Because if even one person does that, then it was totally worth it. So anyways, heartbreaking. And that little boy, that kills me. That hits me. Oh, yeah. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. I think I've got the second part of the Florida cop killer trial. It took me forever to upload. For some reason, YouTube was like blocking all my uploads. I had like 5-7 things ready to go and they couldn't upload them. So I finally got that uploaded. So part 4 and 5 are ready to go. And I think I'm going to put that, I think I got it scheduled for like 3 for those of you who want to watch that trial. It'll be going, and I've got some more stuff for you coming as soon as I can get it done. I hope you all have a fabulous day. Do not drink and drive. Do not drink and operate 4,000-pound missiles. Don't drink and do anything but sit at your house. Like, have Zoom parties or something. It's not worth it. You or anybody else. All right. Love you all. You are amazing. Take care.